Alright, so in this video, we're going to go over the process of buying a home working with a wholesaler. First, we're going to discuss what it's like buying a property working with agents and how the typical home buying process looks like. And then we're going to highlight the key differences as a real estate investor working with a wholesaler. So let's jump right into it. As a first time home buyer, we're going to give him a little smiley face here because he's super excited. Going to buy his first home. He will then hire a real estate agent. We're going to give the real estate agent a little tie. And then the real estate agent is essentially a licensed individual who has access to what is called the MLS. The MLS is the multiple listing service website, and that is a centralized online marketplace, regulated marketplace, where all of the other licensed agents get together. I'm giving them all little ties, get together and list their deals, and they buy and sell properties to each other. You and your agent, you the happy homeowner, first time home buyer, and your agent will go on tours, right? You'll both go schedule tours on the MLS to go look at different houses that are all being marketed by agents, and they're all staged, they're all ready to be purchased in great condition, moving condition. Some are not, but most properties on the MLS have been fixed up, they've been staged and properly set with photos to be marketed and sold to a home buyer, first time home buyer. So once you finally find the property that you want, you as the first time homebuyer will have your agent submit a contract. This is your contract. They will submit a contract on your behalf to purchase the home. In order for you to submit the contract needs to come with what is called earnest money deposit. So you as the first time homebuyer will tell your agent to submit the contract, and then you as the homebuyer would need to submit what is called earnest money deposits. And typically, as a first time homebuyer, you're going to be doing this one at a time, because these earnest money deposits, or EMD for short, typically range between 1% of the purchase price of the home. So you're putting down anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 whenever you're submitting the contract. And the earnest money deposit, all it essentially means is that it's a good faith deposit that demonstrates your seriousness of buying the home. So then what you will do, or what your agent will do for you, is you'll take the contract. All right, this is your contract. And your EMD. And you will open escrow, or open the transaction, start the transaction with what is called a title company. And the title company, what the title company does, this is also another regulated and licensed business. And what they do is they will essentially verify ownership of the home and make sure that the person that is listed as the owner of the home on the MLS and the person that has signed the contract to sell you the home is actually the true owner of the home and can sell that home. They will also look up liens, which are essentially debts, past debts, or balances that may have been levied against the property through judgments, and basically find what all of those balances and amounts are and include them in what the seller will need to pay for once the property is sold, because you as the new owner will not be held liable for that, should not be held liable for any of the past debts that the current owner has incurred. And then what they also do is look at encumbrances, or essentially restrictions that may have been promised by the current owner on the property. These restrictions can range from roads that are maybe promised to be built in the backyard, to electrical power lines, to signs, to access to an alley. You want to know all of that information as the new homeowner so that you know what you are buying. And the title company handles all of this in addition to all of the dates and deadlines that come with the contract. So there is a date and deadline for when your earnest money deposit is supposed to go in. There's a date and deadline for when inspections occur. There's a date and deadline for when the new bank loan and appraisals and all of that stuff gets tracked and monitored by the title company. Title company is essentially like a referee that handles the transaction paperwork as well as the money flow and wires that go with the transaction. But now, fast forward to being a real estate investor and working with a wholesaler. So, a wholesaler does this same process, but the wholesaler, and we'll paint him in green and give him a cool little hat. The wholesaler is doing this, but instead of looking at one house at a time and working with an agent, a wholesaler is doing the what is called direct to seller approach. The direct to seller approach, like we've covered in the previous videos, requires you to find the seller that hasn't worked with an agent yet. And the way you do that is by doing your own marketing. So you're going either door knocking, you're going PPC, Google SEO, running ads, spending a lot of money running ads. You're going cold calling. And then, of course, you're submitting multiple offers on multiple properties to see if somebody's even interested in selling, because these are going to be offers that aren't really solicited. You don't know if they're going to accept them because they haven't put it on the MLS. But what this then allows the wholesaler to do is they're going to find properties that have been heavily discounted because they're working with sellers. So these direct to sellers that now don't need to pay commission. There's no commissions because there's no agents involved. They don't need to make any repairs because their property is just going to be sold as is. It doesn't need to be marketed. They don't need to undergo necessarily super detailed inspections like they would if they were working with a broker and they needed to get a typical bank loan and financing in place for the new buyer to purchase the property. There's a lot less inspections. And what they get to do is sell for cash and a quick close. Because the wholesaler will find these homes and then sell it to you, the investor. And you, as the investor, want to deploy your capital as quickly and as efficiently as possible, so you'll be able to move a lot quicker than a first-time home buyer. But with this whole model, just like you would as a first-time home buyer need to put down an earnest money deposit and submit a contract, but you're only doing that for one or two houses, maybe max at a time, as a wholesaler, you're submitting offers and contracts on multiple properties. So one wholesaler may have 3 houses at once that he's looking to purchase. And for each of these, he will need to provide a contract And let's say, to use round numbers, EMD of $10,000. So he would need to have access to essentially do his business and find deals and do this at a pace that it's actually a profitable business. He would need to have access to $30,000 if he wanted to transact and sell 3 properties as a wholesaler. Where we come in and where we've worked with wholesalers in order to access more deals is that we can offer this $30,000 as a loan to the wholesaler. Right? So the wholesaler can now focus on what he does best, finding deals, door knocking, spending money and investing his money in marketing. We will loan him the money in order to submit the contracts and put these deals under contract and open escrow. And we, as the lender, will send those $10,000 wires to the title company. Don't you think the money will be safe with the title company? The title company is a licensed company that is essentially the referee in this entire transaction. We're not sending it directly to the sellers, we're not sending it directly to the wholesaler. The entire $30,000 or each of these EMD loans get wired directly to the title company. The title company will then handle the transaction and they will already have received executed instructions from us, from the wholesaler, because the wholesaler will agree to our terms, where the title company will be told that once these homes have been sold by the wholesaler to real estate investors, they will be instructed to wire us back, to pay us back the $10,000 plus our return of, let's say in this case, $1,000 per loan. So we will essentially make, or anybody who is doing these EMD loans will essentially make $3,000 or $1,000 on each of these. How can the wholesaler afford to do this? Well, it's simple. The wholesaler will essentially have these deals under contract for, let's say, $100,000 each. That's what he has them under contract for. Because he's direct to seller, he's able to get them at such a great price. So he's got these contracts for 100, and then he will be able to market these and sell these to his investors, who might pay on one deal 110, on another deal it might be worth 150,000 to the investor, and to the final one it might be worth 125. So the difference between the purchase price that he got it for directly from the seller and what he's able to sell it for to the investor is what the wholesaler will make. So in this example, let's say he will end up being able to net roughly about 50, 60, $85,000 across these three deals. Out of that $85,000, the wholesaler gets to then make his assignment fee. He gets to then pay off his marketing expenses. And he gets rewarded for his time and effort looking at all of those other deals, right? Because remember, we said that he's spending his time looking at multiple deals here. Multiple deals, looking if what kind of repairs they're going to need, calculating and seeing if an investor would even buy it, figuring out what an investor would pay for it, and then trying to get a better price. A lot of times he's looking at properties that don't fit the buying criteria. Nobody would buy it, so that way he cannot buy it himself. So he basically gets paid this assignment fee or this difference for his efforts of finding the deal. And of course, out of that spread, out of that $85,000, he is able to pay back the EMD loan plus interest. We've offered, or we are starting to offer, more EMD loans because that way we get to work with more wholesalers who will bring us their deals first, and that way we can take those deals and offer it to our community and to our investors first before any other investor really gets to see it, and we can stay more competitive and stay ahead of where the deals are coming from, who are the most active wholesalers, and we can be seen as a trusted source of funding for these wholesalers. That way we can bring everybody these deals, and everybody has an opportunity to make some more money.